Hey everyone, I wanted to create a video and it's based on a viewer's comment where he wanted to see how installing the GIK Tri-trap bass traps helped my performance in the lower frequencies relative to just using Dirac on top of the bass trap. So what I wanted to do was show three different measurements. These were taken at different times as I was building my home theater, but it shows the progressive performance improvements when you add the tri-trap bass traps and then as you do Dirac calibration on top of that. So let's start with the all SPL view in REW. And the red line here is this is before I installed any bass traps. This is before I used any Dirac calibration. This is what the center channel was showing in terms of performance, and this is up to about 500 hertz. In fact, let me apply settings here, kind of correct it a little bit, and I'll just move this down just a tad. So this is what the center channel with the subwoofer integrated, and I'm running a SVS PC 2000 Pro. This is what the performance looked like. And then this is what it looked like after I installed the tri-trap corner bass traps. You notice a few things. One is that there's significant improvement over here, right, in these lower frequencies from 20 hertz to I'd say like around 70, 80 hertz. There's an actual increase or improvement in the sound levels. And I think this is because the tri-traps are doing their job in controlling the reflections that are going around in that corner and are eliminating some of the nulls that were reducing the decibels that were coming out of the or being recorded by the microphone. And this was from my MLP position. There's this interesting massive null right here at around 96, 97 hertz. I'm not quite sure what's going on there in terms of that. However, it could have been something where, I don't know if I had, because these were measured each at different times, so maybe there's something where slightly different microphone placement or placement of the subwoofer. I'm not quite sure how to interpret this, but it is this very distinct null, and then comes right out of it. So my hunch is that there's something else going on here. I honestly can't explain it. This was about 3 years ago when I recorded it. And then finally we have, if I can highlight it here, this is post Dirac calibration. So again, there's some problems here that I would love to fix. I am working on saving up to get a second subwoofer, and my hope is then I will get an even cleaner and smoother response here. So I wanted to start off with the SPL. Now let me move to waterfall plots here, and I'll start with, this is the pre bass traps. This is pre-Dirac, and what you'll notice here is that there's a fair amount that's coming out towards us, right? So that means there's going to be more energy and it's going to be longer reverberation within the room, and that extends further out into the higher frequencies here between 100 and 500 hertz as well. Once I installed the tri-trap bass traps, then we see a much smoother response here in terms of just containing and controlling these frequencies. We also see more improvements here in some of the even lower frequencies, especially where the subwoofer would be playing. So I'll flip between this again and here, and then finally here's what post Dirac shows. So again, not only a smoother response just in terms of like the ridges and the smoothness here, but also just in terms of how how much energy and how much reverberation is going on. Let me switch over to the spectrogram here. And again, I'll switch over to the baseline here before tri-trap bass traps, before the Dirac live. You can see significant lower frequency reverberation going on, even extending out to about 900 milliseconds to a second here. Though it's primarily concentrated around 700, 750 milliseconds. You can also see just a fair amount of, energy here, and these are in the between 100 and about 30 hertz. Just kind of this quadrant here, just notice this area and look at it. And here's after I installed the tri-trap bass traps. So first off, right off the bat, improvements here, right? Improvements in this area as well. I'll switch between the two again. Also improvements up here. So before, after, and then finally with Dirac, this is what I have here. I think there is some, I would say, maybe a little bit more up here, but again, this is, I don't know, it's still relatively short in terms of the amount of time. And when I look at RT60 decay times for, let's say the higher frequencies here, 100 to 500 hertz, things are looking great. So I'm not overly concerned there, but I do see meaningful improvements in this area here. So before, this is with the tri-trap bass traps, and there's with Dirac, and I'll show baseline here. So this is the original, no bass traps, no Dirac, and now with everything, that to me looks like a much cleaner response. So I hope this video was helpful in demonstrating how both the tri-trap bass traps and Dirac calibrations can work together to achieve an even better result. If I were to do one without the other, it wouldn't be as good. And unfortunately, I don't have, when I got my Onkyo TX RZ50 receiver with Dirac, I had already installed my bass traps. I don't have a measurement that's just, no bass traps, but with Dirac. Unfortunately, I don't have that, but I think this video and the measurements here demonstrate the value of combining both and working together. And that's something that I think other audio experts in the industry have talked about, where it's not just one little piece, but when you combine multiple tools and efforts together, then that's where you get a better result. Could this be even better? Yes, but I am the amateur home theater enthusiast, and for my setup, this is pretty good, and I think I can get even better in the near future here. So hopefully more videos to come as I add a second subwoofer and as I do additional improvements to the room. So hopefully this is helpful though. Thanks for watching, and feel free to like and subscribe if you enjoy these kind of videos. Thanks.